Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation of the ECL Elite Division right here on Sports Gamer. My name is Tuki, joined out this time by Mr. B Mages. We look to wrap up our coverage here for week 5 of our spring season. Brandon, great to be working with you here once again. And what a time for you to step in. Two very intriguing matchups on deck today.
Absolutely, Toogie. It's always so fun getting to step into the booth with you. And like you said, what better time? 4 playoff teams from last season, 3 of the 4 looking well on their way to doing so, while another kind of trying to find their stride after being a surprising struggle in the first 15 games of the season. So excited to be in the booth, excited to see these 4 squads play in these next 4 games. Should be a great time.
Well, with that, let's take a look at the action that's on deck for today. The games, not only on broadcast, but the games that we have around the league. And very intrigued to see what the action will look like as nothing's happening. Just kidding, of course. There's plenty on deck today, of course, on this broadcast. Frölunda HC and IQUE, their 2 games will be covered. And a little bit later on, we have Goons and Sawo. But aside from that, B Major, again, there are some very intriguing matchups here with a lot to play for a lot of these teams. That matchup, especially that catches my eye, Yippee Vaskala and Urabro Hockey, who are kind of in that same spot of being a bubble team at this stage.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And how about the matchup on the top of the screen? Fediestad and Conquer Gaming, a team that has kind of surprised in a good way and a team that's kind of surprised in a bad way. Fediestad has struggled a little bit from what we expected out of them to start the season, while on the flip side, Conquer Gaming, who maybe some had in about a relegation zone, have come in, played well, and are in a playoff spot as of today. So 2 matchups right there that could very well have some playoff implications in a few weeks.
We see there as well our pro division coverage, of course, that you were a part of there yesterday. We'll have more about that perhaps throughout this particular broadcast, as we will get a look at some of the latest results from around the elite division here, perhaps. And indeed, there we go, as we will focus on Frölunda and IQUE. IQUE picking up a win against Goons not all that long ago. Not sure what the second result was there. We'll try to get that information filled in if we can. And of course, Frölunda as well, just compared to the sheer amount of games that have been played around the league, no recent results being in the mix there. But it just goes to show, as we will switch over here to the standings, that we are finally starting to close that gap in terms of the games played, where entering this week, a lot of teams were lagging behind. And now, with the exception of just 2 clubs, everybody is over that 2/3 point in this 30-game regular season. Frölunda entering play today, second place in this division. Their opponents in IQUE, shockingly, of course, in 16th, they finished 5th last year and in a playoff spot. But Brandon, as you can tell, they are in a prime spot here if they can pick up a point or 2 in this matchup to make up that ground of the teams that have 5 games in hand on, all the way up to 12th place Fallon Coal Miners.
Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing that kind of goes to IQ's advantages. Obviously, they got off to that slow start to start the season, and I believe it was 3-8-1 that they were in April, but they didn't play for about a week, didn't get things going again until Monday, and they've won their last 3 contests since then. So it's kind of one of those things to where, yeah, you struggled early on the season, but you also see some of those teams that were ahead of them, like Yipyavasko, like Fallon Coal Miners, like HV71, that started off the season rather well, but have trailed off a little bit since then. So IQUE, having the amount of games they do in hand, there is still some time for them to make up some points, gain some ground, and get themselves back into the thick of that playoff picture. But the thing is that you have to start soon and get in winning form. Otherwise, you kind of start to get into that danger zone where you could be in the relegation series.
You mentioned it again, the playoffs, the top 8 teams, that left-hand side of the bracket, that's where you want to be. The bottom 4, certainly not safe, especially the team that finishes in 16th, automatic relegation for them. Back to the Pro Division for our winter season with NHL 23. So a lot to play for with that. Let's focus on the 2 teams in the spotlight to kick off this broadcast. Again, Frölunda HC taking on IQUE. And, it's a bit one-sided, but it is nice to see IQUE back to an even goal differential.
Yeah, it definitely is nice to see. You never want to be under that even kind of differential. And it's interesting because when you see a team in last place, you kind of expect the stats to be almost even a little bit more lopsided than what they are. But at the same time, you have to remember Frölunda have played, I believe it is 7 more games than IQ have. So the goals against very well would be higher if you were to go off of the averages of these two teams. But you kind of look at Frölunda speaking it, which they did make a lot of changes, but the one change they made, which I'm sure we'll talk about, was Flyer Kungen. It shook up the lineup a little bit, and man, Tugi, the more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. Dominant as ever, still putting in goals, still just as good defensively as they have been in seasons past. It is wild to see the consistency that the side brings. It's going to be interesting to see if they can continue that on today as they try to kind of chase down H-Reds who seem to be running away with that first place spot.
Let's take a look at the lineups in this particular matchup as well for Frölunda, Playmaker, Eki, and the previously aforementioned Flyer Kungen, Potzloff and Loimo on defense, and Kape between the pipes. For IQ, it's Niepi, Ikavalko, and Jurgeli, Nico and Pottsberg on defense, and Teme in goal. And we'll start off with that center comparison, Eki and Ikavalko, who really needed to step up his game heading into this week, and he's done that. He's now over that point per game mark, but obviously he's going against one of the premier really competitive NHL players in the world, sixes or otherwise.
Yeah, and I think you have to give Eki a lot of credit because you have to remember, I believe this is the first season in really a while, maybe in ever, that we've seen him actually slot in at the center spot for the entirety of the season. We kind of saw him make that change in the middle of the finals that we covered in the winter season. He felt good with it. They made the move getting Flyer Kungen. He moved to right wing, Eki slot to center, and to say the results have been there would maybe be an understatement. 32 points in the 20 games he's played. That's one of the higher marks in the league. He's been great at the faceoff dot as well with that 53.5%. So Ikavalko, he's going to have his work cut out for him, but he's starting to get things trending in the right direction. So definitely encouraging to see him kind of get things going, especially with IQ trying to kind of get themselves back into a good rhythm with some games in hands.
Friendly reminder, of course, in chat as well. Our predictions still up. Let us know who you think is going to walk away with the victory in this one as we take a look here at the wingers again. Playmaker and Flyer Kungen for Frölunda, Niepi and Jurgeli for IQ. All of them over that point per game mark where you really want to be major, but of course at the same time, the advantage certainly in Frölunda's favor heading into this matchup.
Oh, most definitely. And I don't think you have to really look too much further than saying that you have the #1 point scorer in Playmaker in the league right now. First in goals, first in points so far in the ECL Elite Division. So he's a guy that stepped up huge. And Flyer Kungen is tied for 5th in points. So both these guys have been absolutely lighting it up to start the season. And I think the most glaring the glaring stat that I see is the shots on net. 307 shots for Frölunda. Both of their wingers combined for over 160 of them. So these guys, they put the puck on that. They do it a lot. Both Jurgeli and Yepi are going to have to step up huge and try to get some opportunities for this IQ team because when Frölunda gets going, these two have really been the beneficiaries on the offensive end.
Defensively in this matchup, again, Captain Potzloff for Frölunda alongside Loimo, or at least perhaps former captain. They do like to refer to Kape as the Roberto Luongo-esque captain of this team, but he is alongside Loimo, Nico, and Pottsberg on defense for IQ. And again, similar type of matchup that we see here, but it's been the story of IQ kind of turning around things this season. These two have gotten better as the season's gone on.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with the reasons as to why they have started to turn things around a little bit. They're 3-4 in their last 4 contests, and the thing is that early in the season they struggled a little bit defensively, and they weren't able to keep enough goals out compared to the goals that they were scoring. They've never necessarily been the highest scoring team, but they've been a team that's always had good defense. They were top 5 in goals allowed last season. This season, that number has kind of risen a little bit, which you never do want to see. Both Nico and Pottsberg have stepped up as things have gone on. If they can continue to get better and start to find their goal scoring touch a little bit more to kind of even things out, they could very well get on a run and find themselves in one of those last few playoff spots. But they have to do it quick because the tough part of their schedule starts today with this Frölunda team.
In our last head-to-head, of course, the goaltenders Kape and Teme, both over that 80% save mark where you want to be. But how about that? A 135 goals against average for Kape through 20 games played.
And not only that, but 5 shutouts as well. So he's blanking teams in 25% of the games that he is playing. So Kape just doing Kape things. It almost just feels normal at this point, despite some of the numbers that he puts up. It's absolutely crazy to see the consistency that he and this entire Frölunda team have played with. While for Teme, IQ struggled, but the stats for him still about where you want to see them. Like you said, over that 80 save percentage, right on the nose at that 2 goals against average. So despite some of the struggles in front, Teme has been solid so far. Just kind of a question of if they can get things going in front of them, because the goaltending has been stout through the first part of the season.
So again, we are just a few moments away from puck drop. Game 1 of 2 for Frölunda and IQUE kicking things off on broadcast today. Again, a friendly reminder, Goons and Sabo Esports coming up a little bit later after that. And an even friendlier reminder, perhaps, again, like we said, we're closing out week 5, but we're also heading into a little bit of a break in the season. Of course, this one already kind of carved out, knowing that this time would be taken off for these teams. We will not have games on the schedule, I believe, for a little bit here. I believe until Sunday, the 22nd, will be the next time that we are on broadcast here with the Elite Division. So it really makes you wonder here as we look to carve out the standings. And again, when we return for week 6, Yippee Voskala taking on Roots, and perhaps the biggest matchup that we've all been waiting for. It'll prove to be worth the wait. The championship rematch, of course, for the past 3 seasons running. Frölunda taking on H-Reds. It'll be our first look at them going head-to-head. And very intrigued to see what this break does for certain teams. Does it halt the momentum of some while allowing others to reset? We haven't really had a break like this in the middle of a season, at least that I can recall in my time here. So another X factor, another variable to what's going on and how this season's going to play out.
Absolutely. And if you look at an example of that, I think you can look at IQUE. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I got the specifics. They didn't play a game from April 29th to May 8th. So they struggled in April, just kind of took a week away, and all of a sudden they're starting to get things going. Ever since that point, they've won each of their last 3. So if you're a hot team, you maybe don't want that break to come, but if you're struggling a little bit, looking to get things going, that break could maybe serve you well to get back on track when we start play up here in a few weeks.
Again, sportsgamer.gg for all the information that you need on the Wilhelm e-hockey tour. Events, of course, every single weekend, so make sure you get involved with that. And certainly get involved with that, with Sin and I being able to talk about it and cover it. Jealous of some of the opportunities, of course, that are going on for the locals in terms of those who are watching this. And of course, as well, we want to still see the best and also certainly want to see the worst that NHL 22 has had to offer you on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to use the hashtag eHockeyMoments when sharing your clips, and you will have a chance to perhaps be the lucky winner of some IQUE Fuel, giving away a winning prize package every single week until the end of June as the action is underway. Here it is, IQUE in their lovely, as I've deemed, seafoam green jerseys. Unfortunately, though, they take a penalty. Frölunda will go to the power play if they need it, as that one flex off of man in front of Frölunda. Still in possession. Kape's out there as the extra attacker. We have seen a goalie goal this week. We will not see one on this instance, but already that Frölunda power play gets to go to work.
Yeah, dangerous for on the power play. We've seen how dynamic they can be on that power play when they get going the last few seasons, and this season no different. Second in the league in the power play, a little bit under 30%. So not an ideal start for IQUE, but if you can kill this off, maybe get yourself some momentum and try to just start fresh here after the first 2 minutes.
Tie up off the draw. Puck kicked out to the corner. Kept in here by Loimu. Great job there by Jurgeli to walk away with it. Short-handed bid. Throws one on and a kick save by Kape. Like that, throw pucks on net. Good things can happen. Draw pass at the line. Good movement here. Loimu. Potzloff's pass off the mark, and Pottsberg. No confusion there throughout this particular contest, I'm sure. Pottsberg able to clear that one out. Huge hit as Jurgeli putting in work here in this short-handed situation. Flyerkungen drives the net. He's puck in the corner. Playmaker back for Flyerkungen. Final few moments of this power play. Playmaker can't pull the trigger on the shot. They're trying to win back possession. Scramble for it. Flyerkungen has it. We're back to even. A successful penalty kill here for IQUE to start things off. Perhaps a good bit of momentum boosting for them as unfortunately not able to hold on to the puck in the offensive zone.
Yeah, and that was a great PK there for IQ. I don't think Frölunda got a shot on net there in the first few minutes, and have to give a lot of credit to their positioning, not giving them anything easy.
IQ looking to get things going offensively here for the first time. Big hit at the blue line by Potzloff to keep that puck out. Good job there by IQUE, hounding the opposition to win that one back. Yergely's pass intercepted. Couple of big hits for IQ. Frölunda still in possession here, though. Playmaker going to work down low. Turns it over ultimately. Both teams just causing havoc in terms of forechecking here, not letting these defenders have a moment to think, let alone breathe. Using the epi. Nowhere to go. IQ looking good in transition until they get to that blue line. Flyer Kungen has that one. Knocked loose, and again, Pottsburg struggling with those layers of attack here for Frölunda. Very important matchup for both of these two teams. Yergely, 2-for-1 special on the contact. Again, couldn't get the puck. Here's Playmaker, far side, rebound, scores! But it is being waved off for goaltender interference.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate one for Frölunda. They had worked so long and so hard to get a good look, and they finally did right there. A nice play, getting it on that rebound, and was well positioned there to get that second look, but unfortunately bumped into him right after that shot. Not going to count, so gonna have to try to do it again, but that's encouraging for Frölunda considering they've been on the attack so much so far in this first.
Puck over the line again, stopped. IQ doing a good job here for the most part. Nearly got caught. So it's a bit of a wake-up call for them, and unfortunately, the Epi's pass goes back to the neutral zone. Fighting for it. Good work here from Pottsburg, just continuing to try to drive the net. Forces the save from Kape. So an offensive zone draw coming up for IQ.
Yeah, the first time we've really seen IQ get a chance to kind of get things established in the offensive zone. It felt like ever since that penalty they took earlier, Frölunda had really been controlling the way this game was going. They were always in the offensive zone and didn't really allow IQ to get out of it. So this is a big chance for them to maybe establish something and get the first goal.
Maintain possession here, back to Pottsburg. Nico's shot doesn't find a way through all that traffic.
Sit down.
Huge hit there to take down Eki. Playmaker has it, gets it back to Eki. Didn't get that short side chance. It was a good poke by Nico. Yergely hands off for Niepi. Stretch pass. Dovalko. Again for Nico. Trying to pinch in. Nowhere to go. Frölunda strong in their defensive structure. Offside call here, though, and already under 3 minutes to play here in the first period.
Yeah, 3 minutes and maybe not a goal. We've seen a little bit of action here, mostly on the Frölunda side of things. They've been so stout defensively, and they've gotten a lot of their offensive generation because of that. But I think the question is, when are we going to see that first goal? Not a lot of shots on net really so far for either of these two sides in the first period.
Frölunda able to recover this one here. Stretch pass, Playmaker. I'm surprised he picked it up. He was offside, but a strong showcase of hands regardless.
Yeah, nice little showcase. You never want to get too flashy with it if it's going to be offsides, but you want to show off that skill every now and then. He was jetted off there. Not really much he could do there to make that play happen.
The puck dumped into that far side corner. Great job by Pottsburg, but he does turn it over. Flyer Kungen was there. Eki down low. Potslot tried to go back to him. Was intercepted. Play off to the corner boards. Final minute here. Yergely, bit of space, takes the shot, misses high and wide on the blocker side. Niepi. Pass intercepted. Final second. And that'll do it. A rather close and competitive first period. Both teams keeping the other in check defensively. And, well, speaking of checks, see some of the work that Niepi put in.
Absolutely. There were plenty of big hits thrown around from IQ. There was about 4 or 5 I can remember off the top of my head that ended up in those animations that you end up seeing where your player ends up making a nice little statement after the fact. But I think IQ, maybe not the best offensive period they would have wanted, only one shot, a minute and a half time on attack, but they pretty much kept Frölunda at bay, considering that they got on that power play so early, had a lot of opportunities in the offensive zone. I think the fact that you go into the second period tied with no score, I think that goes to the advantage of IQ, just keeping themselves in it, keeping that run of momentum staved away there for Frölunda, and just hoping you can maybe get things going in the offensive side of things.
So with that, again, the first period comes to a close. Let's get a look at, well, I was guessing, let's get a first look at some of the stats. Didn't have the time to do so. Second period about ready to begin here. Still looking for the opening goal of this contest. Again, we thank you for joining us here with this example, this lovely presentation, of course, of more Elite Division action here. Again, wrapping up our Week 5 coverage. Heading into that 1-week season break before that sprint begins for the playoffs. Save there. Trouble for Teme. He is able to find it and make the cover.
Yeah, that one was a little bit interesting there. He knew where the puck was, but didn't seem like he really wanted to grab it there on the animation, so it would have been unfortunate to see that one go in, but a nice job being in position, staying sharp to make sure nothing tricky happened for the first goal of the game.
Okay, a one-timer attempt there off of the draw is blocked. Goes all the way back to the neutral zone. Frölunda forced to reset. Usually another big hit. Trying to force the issue. It's nice to see sometimes a team against competition the caliber of Frölunda will turtle up and not really force the issue. Still have to try to play your style while adapting to the other teams. It's a fine line. Playmaker. Now Potzloff stepping in. Tried that pass across for Eki. Good job by Nico to get a piece of it. Fire Kungan back for Loimu. Beforehand, that shot blocked. Playmaker, good bit of skating, but a weak shot attempt on goal. Easily picked off. And Yappy found it. Good double team pressure. Volko nowhere to go. Jurgel, he poked at something that didn't need to be poked at. There's Playmaker, has the step, and it's in. Flyer Kungan cleans up the mess. 1-0 for Frölunda. What an effort, though, by Playmaker to take advantage with that elite level speed. Proven to be a difference maker yet again.
Absolutely, he's the leading point getter in the Elite Division for a reason. You saw right there. Not only can he score goals, but he can create opportunities for others, even if it's not in the most conventional way. It was actually a nice job from IQ, back-checking and getting back in that play to kind of break that up, but unfortunately could not get it off the stick in time, and Flyer Kungan got himself in the right position, was able to clean up the garbage, and put it in to get their first mark of the game.
Kungan's 17th of the campaign with his new club. Proven to be a pretty solid fit. He entered play today as well, tied for 5th in points. It's IQ looking to get that goal back. That shot into the traffic, bouncing around. Playmaker came up with it. And we'll see what IQ can do. Second time we've seen them in action on broadcast this week. That one off the pads of Cape. Already halfway through regulation in this one. Eki will chase it down. Gains puck possession. Playmaker down low. And a goal. What a pass. Playmaker going to work here in the second period. It's 2-1.
Sure, he's heard this one plenty of times, Tugi, but Playmaker more like Playmaker on that play. And Loimu, the beneficiary of just a beautiful pass through the traffic and all, put it right on the stick, only where Loimu can get it. And usually more times than not, when Loimu has that space, he's going to capitalize. One of the more underrated offensive defensemen in the ECL Elite Division. And now Frölunda really in control, and IQ going to have to find a response quick.
He's going to go with a 2-for-1 special. Might be a 3-for-1. As Frölunda keeping that pressure on. Playmaker nearly able to chase that one down. And if you're IQ at this point, obviously you're not wanting to give up on the idea of being able to win this, but certainly, managing the bleeding at this stage is going to be very important for them as well, in terms of trying not to give up too many goals. Problem is, once Frölunda gets rocking and once they start getting that momentum up there, very, very difficult to shut them down. But it is IQ in the attacking zone, and again, trying to get a shot through that traffic, hoping for a deflection, but it is Frölunda defending very, very well in front of goal. Pick off there by IQUE. Still battling with Eki. Niepi now in the corner, looking for somewhere to go. IQUE having to battle for every inch in the offensive zone. Shot on chest off of the man in front. A good hit there. Eki, his pass intercepted. Jurgeli can't seem to make his way past Potzloff despite his best effort. Shot on. The kick saved by Kape. So IQUE continue to do what they can to keep the Frölunda netminder on his toes. Fortunately, a pass back there off the mark.
Yeah, still a lot of time here for IQUE. 2 goals against Frölunda. You know, you can definitely do worse, but the thing is, you have to get going offensively. Got to find this next mark. The next goal is going to be really important for both sides.
Volko, they score! Talk about the next goal. It didn't take long. And we are back to a 1-goal game. It is Nico in his 3rd of the year to get IQUE on the board.
It didn't take much time, Tugi. I mean, about 10 to 15 seconds after I mentioned it, IQUE said, hey, we'll go ahead and take that next goal. Let's make things interesting and cut that deficit in half. That is a huge goal for IQUE to grab. It's a big difference between 2-1 and 3-0. It makes that mountain to climb so much more manageable. And now you go into maybe the end parts of the second period with a solid deficit to maybe be able to come back from with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, huge moment there as the forechecking pressure finally pays off for IQUE. They might not be done if his pass doesn't go. Final minute of play here in the second period. Volko, the handoff pass. One more rush attempt here for IQUE. Nico, the goal scorer, he's in. Shot, rebound, another kick save by Kape. And that will do it for the second period. Great pushback from IQUE in the closing moments of that second period.
It was exactly what the doctor ordered. Frölunda were controlling this game. They had all the momentum, and you kind of have to go back to that face-off play after the second goal that they scored to where they weren't able to convert for a third. That was a game-changing play. It allowed IQUE to kind of reset, take a deep breath, get their kind of gatherings back within them, and they were able to keep pushing, keep forcing the issue, and were able to find that first goal to cut this lead of Frölunda in half. But I think now the big question is, can you find a second? This is an IQUE team that has kind of struggled being able to score enough goals this season. They've had a lot of these close games to the fact to where a lot of the games they've lost in regulation have been by 1 goal. So now the question is, can you find one more to tie it up? Hopefully 2 more to take the lead while still keeping Frölunda at bay and not giving them too many looks.
Again, 11 shots registered between the two teams, but the big physicality advantage in favor of IQUE, and not often you'll see, a team in the bottom half of the standings outpossess Frölunda, but it does go to show the talent level that IQUE have. Certainly better than their performance this season would indicate, but they've worked hard to try to turn around that narrative, turn around these results, and you can see the fight. They possess the pushback as well. Kape forced to make another save.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that, Tugi, because you have to remember this IQUE team finished 5th last season. We're in a really tight series with Färjestad in the playoffs and brought back all 6 starters that are in this lineup from last season as well.
And they have tied it up. Jurgeli in front. It's 2-2 here in the early stages of the third period, just 53 seconds in.
How about that IQUE just not going away? Things looked a little bit bleak after those 2 goals. Frölunda had a chance to even get a third, but IQUE just keeping at it, keeping themselves in the game, keeping themselves in striking distance, and we're able to find that 1 more score that we were just talking about, and all of a sudden we're right back at even, and IQUE starting to sway the momentum back in their favor.
From 2-0 down, they have tied it up. A great effort here, but Playmaker now trying to find that little bit of space. Pass across, nobody home. Huge hit there, Potzloff's down. We get back to his feet. Playmaker has it down low. He's bumped off the puck. The physicality of IQUE really paying off here. As an equalizing factor, Potzloff's pass off the mark. A late goal in the second, a very early goal here in the third. IQUE tie it up. Jurgeli's 9th of the season. He has had a very impressive performance here in this one. Pass across, swing and a miss. And another one for Niepi. So close yet so far. Maybe giving IQUE the lead. And a shot for Flyer Kungen just wide. on that far side post. Loimu's shot save. Playmaker nearly finding that puck in front of goal. Teme able to make the save, and talk about pushback. We're seeing a good effort here from Frölunda.
Yeah, Frölunda's a team that when they have that lead, they do not take kindly to giving it up. They let those 2 goals back, and they have been pushing the issue ever since, chopping at the bit to get that lead back. And Frölunda's one of those teams, if you allow them to put that pressure too long, it's going to fall through eventually. IQ going to have to find a way to get out of their own zone is what they struggled with really in this game.
Another save there. Let's see what Frölunda can do, trying to reestablish that lead that they let slip. Again, a 2-0 lead has fallen. Long way to go in this one. Ikavalko's pass to the points picked off. Playmaker trying to generate some speed. Great job by Pottsburg. Jergely for Ikavalko again. So difficult to find space, which makes that comeback all that more impressive. Izaki tries to go short side. Good job by the defense to get there and help out. Playmaker wins that puck back. Shot from Flyer Coogan. Rebound handled by the defense. Playmaker and Eki putting in some work. Potzloff shot just wide. That blocker side.
Love this forecheck from Frölunda. It's giving IQ a lot of problems.
What a moment there. Not sure if they hit the side of the goal or the glove, the cage. Looked wide open for Eki there. And Flyer Coogan just misses that short side. Tucka kick saved by Teme. IQ holding on for dear life here in this third period. 2 points would be huge, but again, we talk about it for teams like this that are on the outside looking in. An overtime point would do wonders for a club like this in one of their most difficult matchups of any calendar season. And just 5.5 minutes to play in regulation. Here come Frölunda one more time. There's Loimu. Good shot there, but the glove save from Teme. Under 5 minutes to play now in this third period.
I think you have to give Teme a lot of credit because he stayed sharp between the pipes for IQ when they really have, like I said earlier, struggled to get out of their own zone. Frölunda's really hemmed them in there. They've got a lot of possession time. Teme stayed sharp and made the saves he's supposed to make.
IQ in possession off the draw. Off the long low, Playmaker with the interception. Lofts one through. Flyer Coogan will recover along the half wall. Goes back to Loimu again at the point. Playmaker, Potzloff shot, bouncing around and puts it behind the back of the goal. Potzloff again sends one down low. Pottsburg is there to intercept it. Gets that pass up to Jergely. Fortunately, Ikavalko couldn't handle that one. 2 minutes left. Jergely to turnover, hit the side of the goal. Great effort again by Jergely. Been causing trouble for that Frölunda breakout all game. Loimu. Pocheck. Ikavalko again up for Jergely. Unfortunately, offside there as that one was stifled. Final minute, 53 seconds away perhaps from overtime.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier too. IQ would love to be able to snag that point. They have those games in hands, and this is the tough part of their schedule starting today with Frölunda. They didn't play a lot of playoff teams early in the season and dropped some points they didn't expect to. This will be big to start stealing some points against some teams that are higher up in the standings to kind of make up for that difference.
Good job there by Niepi to take this one away. Jergely has it knocked loose, gets it back. Pass in front, nobody home. But it's Nico. Kill rifle one. Around the boards. Fought on for. Niepi has it. On the forehand. Holding it below the goal line. Looking for that bit of space. Finds it. With Jergely, whose pass is off the mark. Hurts their chances to perhaps score a late game winner. But the clock is their friend right now as it continues to wind down. Nico gains the line. Poked off by Flyer Coogan. One more chance here for Eki. A comeback for IQ from 2-0 down. They tie it up. We are going to overtime and a very valuable point gained for IQ.
It's exactly what they needed for many reasons. They have those games in the hands. They're trying to get themselves back into the thick of that playoff race, and you have to steal some points against teams like Frölunda when you are in a position to where you are a bit outside the playoffs and you have a lot of ground to make up. And I think you have to give IQ a lot of credit for the resilience. A lot of teams against this Frölunda squad, when they get that big cushion where they have a 2-goal lead, it's hard to come back from that because there's not a lot of space on the ice, as you mentioned earlier. Not only that, but Frölunda is so good at being able to control the possession and control the flow of the game. I think IQ deserves a lot of credit for not letting that get to them, getting that run that they needed, and then not letting not letting Frölunda rather get that response to take the lead back.
So again, a huge result for IQ. We have talked about it. They do have some makeup games to play, but you know, you look ahead at that particular schedule and, you know, Roots, IQ. I believe they game played against Goons has already been played, unless they only played half the series. But Urabro, Havu, Sawo. I mean, there are a lot of more than likely playoff-bound teams in their future. So to pick up at least a point here so far against Frölunda, IQ, I would say on the day, already playing with house money, regardless of the result of this game and even the second game. So we'll see again what the play style continues to be. So they at least pick up a point, but you know they want that second one, and they nearly got it. Kape the cover. That was Yergely in front, contesting that one more time.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned how they hadn't played a lot of playoff teams. Not even half of their 15 games were against teams currently in the playoffs. 6 of their 15 as of now, so they're going to have to punch a little bit above their weight, at least per the standings, if they want to try to get back into that race.
So scramble for the puck. Flyer Kungen couldn't hold on to it. Potzloff turns it over, Nieppe. Shot just wide on the glove side. Pottsberg and Nico, there we go. It's loose, and Kape makes the cover in the crease. What an effort from IQ, going all out to try and earn this second point against Frölunda.
And Kape is not a man of many worries, but man, that had to give him a little bit of a sweat. That slap shot had a good chance, and IQ kept at it with a nice second look as well.
Frölunda perhaps being caught off guard a little bit here. I mean, I'm sure they don't view IQ as an easy matchup, but just this level of fight and pushback is exactly what you want to see from a player in this, or from a team, and from these players that are in this situation that they currently are. Flyer Kungen gets absolutely rocked by that hit from Nico. And now it's Captain Nieppe. Good bit of defensive skating and a glove save. Kape takes it away. Another A-grade chance for IQ.
And if Kape's not in position for that, we might have saw a hashtag eHockey moment. That was a beautiful move on that entry, an even better pass, but Kape just showing that IQ off, showing that skill, reading that play away.
Another kick save there by Kape off that face-off win. An offside call here for Frölunda. Who's the team in second place?
Oh man, tell me about it.
What a performance this is.
Yeah, I mean, IQ, with the way they're playing, you can tell they were not happy at all with the way their season started. You would have thought that they were around 4th or 5th in the standings, not in 16th. This is like a completely different team from what we saw in the first 3 weeks of the season.
There's Frölunda in possession here. Another great step-up hit. That was Nieppe. Not to jinx it. The key for IQ, outside of a penalty in the first period, they've stayed out of the box as well, despite this aggressiveness. Playmaker gets it back down low. Tried to go in front. Loose puck still there. Flyer Kungen for Recchi. He scores. It didn't take too many chances for Frölunda to win this one in overtime. 3-2 your final. Again, though, IQ, a very valuable point earned in giving Frölunda everything they could handle in that first game.
Absolutely. So you can't hold your head too low if you are the team in the mint-colored green, we'll call it, but have to give a lot of credit to Frölunda because they had to hold off quite a siege there from IQ throughout this entire overtime period. They were the aggressors. Frölunda had their backs against the wall and were on their heels through the 9 minutes that we saw when this is just how Frölunda is, Sugi. If they're not dominating the play, that's one thing, but they can just turn around an instant, get themselves that one opportunity, and more than not, if it's a clean look, they're going to capitalize on it, and who else but ECL to be the one to get the game-winning goal. So an unfortunate result for IQUE, considering they played so well in that overtime period. You know they would have loved to have gotten the 2 out of 2 points, but nevertheless, like you said, when you're down in the standings trying to get into that playoff race, any point is valuable.
Incredible effort there, forcing an 820 save percentage out of Kape. An incredibly strong effort from IQUE. Unfortunately, falls just short. We'll get a look here at some of the goals. And of course, it started off being very strong for Frölunda with that 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and you see that first goal. It was a beautiful poke check there on the back check. It was a breakaway chance for Playmaker, but Flyer Kungen doing one of the things that I feel he does best. He's always at the right place at the right time, reading the play so well, was there for that second chance, look after the initial poke check, and had to open that to put the puck in.
And again, this next goal here, I mean, a very fortunate, very fortunate break there for Frölunda for it to find Loimu and to find the back of the net the way that he did. But right here, that first goal for IQUE off of that forechecking pressure that they were sending out in droves throughout that entire game.
Yeah, I think that's what really charged that comeback for IQUE was that aggression. We saw them laying a lot of big hits, but a lot of those hits were in their own zone. They kind of turned some of that aggressiveness into charging in the face somewhat of Frölunda, kind of making them think, making them pressure a little bit. It's kind of what led that charge for them, that first goal. And on the second goal, they turned that forecheck into a bit of a better offensive attack.
And again, right there, one more look at it. The game winner for ECL. A little bit of space is all that they needed to find the back of the net. The result in the books, a 3-2 overtime victory for Frölunda in our first game of this broadcast. We'll be back, though, after a brief word from our sponsors, and we'll set the stage for game 2. Very intrigued to see what we get out of this matchup after a very exciting first game. All right, everybody, we are back. Again, a big thank you to Wilhelm Koval and Lakritzi and ST Hockey, as always, for supporting the ECL, in particular, of course, the Elite Division. Again, Game 2 now coming up in just a few moments for Frölunda and IQUE. Of course, we want to get you a look at some of the other results, everything that's going on around the league today. Certainly worth paying attention to, as, again, you would have seen IQUE, of course, we mentioned it earlier on, that split against Goons, a good result, despite the loss. If you're going to lose to Frölunda, pick up that overtime point as well. They're getting points more consistently, and that's that surge back up the standings is very much on at this stage. They are just 2 points back of YMCA Esports with 3 games at hand. There needs to be some nervous teams that are currently ahead of IQUE in the standings, because it might not be for that much longer.
Absolutely, and you kind of see a few of the teams even on this board that might be shaking in their boots a little bit, with IQUE starting to rise a little bit in the latter half of the season. A team like Jyväskylä that started out well but has gotten on a little bit of a slide these last few weeks. Fallon Coal Miners, a team that was in the top 8 for the first half of the season, but 2-8-0 in their last 10. So teams that are kind of struggling a little bit towards the latter half of the season, seeing a team like IQUE, a consistent playoff team, start out a little bit rough, has chemistry, starting to get going. That's a scary sight for any of those teams that are from 9 to about 13.
Absolutely. Again, you see the teams there on the ice. IQUE, in terms of point percentage, technically above Stargazing and YMCA. They'll be looking to pick up more points in this one. Game 2. IQUE in those road whites and on the attack early on. And it was a 3-2 overtime victory for Frölunda in Game 1. But IQUE start off strong. It's Nico's second of the night. And 1:19 into the game, IQUE grabbed the lead.
How about that? Nico had 2 all season long coming into the series, and all of a sudden, he puts 2 in against this Frölunda team alone. That's a big start for IQUE, a great way to get things going. We kind of talked about it. This Frölunda team, they don't like when a team pushes back, but IQUE just keep going and going and going. They will not stop, and that is a huge start for this team trying to snag points in the standings.
Incredible stuff. What a way to start this game for IQUE. Again, we And we did mention it as much as we could in that pregame. This is a team that's better than where their current place in the standings would indicate, as they have continued to prove here throughout this week and trying to get their season at least somewhat back on track. And here they are, a 1-0 lead, looking to make it 2. Yergely banks it off the back of the net, but again, continuing that forechecking pressure. Frölunda, though, now in the attacking zone. Playmaker couldn't pick that one up. Potzloff's there to recover. Down low for ECE. Playmaker, the odd angle shot doesn't go. Turned over there. Flyer Coogan nowhere to go. There's the outlet pass to Nieppe. Loimu able to strip him of the puck. Frölunda trying to get things going after getting caught here in the early stages of this first period. Flyer Coogan wanted the wrap. ECE just wide. A follow-up chance on the backhand. Loimu's shot gets through the traffic, saved by Teme. Playmaker now down low in the corner. Potzloff has a couple options, goes right back down low. Playmaker trying to pinch in. 2 defenders there to take that away for IQ. See the quick movement, just trying to find that little bit of space. Puck essentially dumped in. Yergely is going to win it. Nieppe down low, tried to go back to him. Loimu all over it. This puck again recovered. IQ battling for it. ECE in a little bit of trouble. Nieppe there to pick it up. Again, tried to drop it down low. That pass just isn't there. Another turnover for Frölunda, but a little bit of reprieve as the puck goes back to the neutral zone.
And Tugi, if I'm wrong, feel free to say, but Frölunda until now just hemmed in their own zone there. The forecheck absolutely relents for IQ. It's doing them a ton of favors so far in this first.
Very, very good start to the first half of the period. Here's Yergely around the back. Nieppe shot blocked by Loimu. Pass banked off the back of the net. Loimu able to recover it again. ECE for Playmaker still has this puck. Weaved his way through traffic. Flyer Coogan scores! A just textbook Flyer Coogan play. Fakes going around, tucks it in short side. We're tied at 1. Heartbreak there for IQ. Technically an own goal, but let's be honest, Flyer Coogan earned that one.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. His goals may not always be pretty, but he gets them in, and that's a great play on that post. Using it. Got Teemu to move a little bit there. Nice job there from Flyer Coogan taking advantage.
Loose puck there in the slot. Loimu able to recover, so here we are tied at 1. With 6 minutes to play here in the first period. And IQ, that opening goal, less than a minute and a half into this contest from Nico. Unfortunate moment here. Flyer Coogan to Playmaker. ECE had it, ran out of room. Close call, IQ, and another turnover. Maybe starting to feel the heat a little bit. Loimu for Potzloff. It's blocked down. IQ all of a sudden now struggling. Frölunda, the pressure they're applying, certainly a factor in those struggles. It's ECE. Sauces and a big save. Teme able to deny Playmaker. What a pass by ECE. And Flyer Coogan scores. Posted up in the slot, the one-timer. And Frölunda take the lead 2-1.
Yet again, another beautiful pass off of the stick of Playmaker into that slot. It was Loimu in the last game. It's Flyer Coogan in this one. He posted up right at that face-off hash mark, and he got that pass there. We kind of were wondering, was that a design play, or was that just where the pass kind of went on that last game? Seems like that's a design play from this Frölunda team. They've executed it twice now. That's led to a goal, and big switch here for Frölunda after IQ really were controlling the first few minutes of this game.
Yeah, I think unfortunately just kind of the mistakes started to add up for IQ. It opened the door for Frölunda to walk back in, and that's just not a situation you can allow to happen, is giving Frölunda any more opportunities than they're going to earn on their own. So some self-inflicted wounds here for IQ. Still a long way to go in this one. Final few moments here of this first period. Playmaker can't get that pass across. Final 5. ECE recovers. Shot blocked, and that will do it for the first period. So a strong start for IQ. Frölunda showing their own ability to battle back. 2 goals for Flyer Coogan and a 2-1 lead.
And boy, we have been treated to 4.5 amazing periods of hockey. It feels like when one team has that momentum, the other finds a way to respond and take that momentum away from their opposition. We saw it from IQ last game. We're seeing it from Frölunda in this game. IQ get that early goal to start things out strong and then really just kept attacking. They didn't let their foot off the gas pedal. It kind of felt like Frölunda were on their heels through the first 10 minutes of this first period. They struggled to get out of their own zone, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. How often do we ever see Frölunda get hemmed into their defensive zone? But Frölunda doing what they do best. They find a way, they get a response, put 2 goals in, and all of a sudden, it's like none of the first 10 minutes even happened. They're in the lead going into the second period.
Getting a strong performance there for Flyer Kungen. That's just what he has always done. So dangerous around the goal. That was the kind of the hallmark of the Havu Gaming offense for so long. And well, here we are. He's doing that now for Frölunda, of course. I call just 12 seconds into the second period. Again, second game between these teams, but not the final set of games that we'll have for you on this broadcast a little bit later on. It is the battle of 3 and 4 heading into the action today. Goons and Sawa Esports still on deck for this one is Kape with the kick save there, and an important one as well to not let IQ get that early goal and build up some of that momentum.
Yeah, and I like that IQ is on the attack early here in the second period. It went to their advantage in that last game where they were able to find a goal early in that second, and now being down 2-1 here yet again, it's important they get that momentum going and don't let Frölunda try to extend this lead.
You got steamrolled.
Good hit there by Jurgli. Niepi has it. They are onside. Jurgli now again. See what he can do. His forechecking presence has been a difference maker. Hotsburg, free Cavalco, now Niepi down low. Tried to get it in front, banked off a skate back to the point. Now a bit of space for Frölunda. Playmaker shot, kick save by Teme, keeping him honest. Be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be, at how many times you've seen Playmaker score from that exact same situation. Cavalco for Pottsburg. They do gain the line. Eki having trouble holding on to it. Pottsburg tries to circle through. Good job there by Nico to take that one away. Gets flatlined by Flyer Kungen. Difference maker in this game for Frölunda so far. Another offside call here. Good job by Frölunda to protect that blue line.
Yeah, and a little bit more of a neutral zone play in these two teams in the second period. Didn't see a lot of that in the first, so things maybe starting to slow down a little bit, which could very well go to the advantage of Frölunda. They're up by 1 in this game. It's so hard to find any open space against them if you're IQ. Could maybe go to the advantage of Frölunda with this game starting to settle in a little bit and things becoming very neutral zone based.
IQ in possession. I was going to say for how long, and well, we got our answer before I could even finish my sentence. The corner. Pottsburg. Bumped off the puck. Nico the turnover. Flyer Kungen can't hold on to it. Certainly not the hot hand that you want to turn that puck over to right about now. The game starting to trend a bit more towards Frölunda's favor here. Jurgli might have something to say about that. Great move, rocket pass, and the Epi off the mark. Good poke check to knock that away from Potslov. Kape! Nervous moment there. Pottsburg was there to interrupt. Good interception by Playmaker. Stretch pass. Taken away. Nico, though, can't win the race. Great shot by Flyer Kungen. Loimu shot, save, rebound, scores the hat trick. Flyer Kungen makes it 3-1 for Frölunda, and it's a little bit tough now, perhaps, to see a bit of a way back. Great goal there.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think so for a 2-goal deficit. We saw IQ come back from that in the last game, but you said it, Tugi, the way this game is playing, it's trending towards Frölunda's favor, especially when they have a lead. It's so hard to get space against them. Opportunities do not come often. The last thing you want is to be down by a large deficit with little time remaining. IQ gonna have to climb a pretty steep hill to get back into this.
To see if they maybe go back to just throwing a few more shots on goal. It was opening up some space. Got to be quick in that attacking zone. You're never going to have that much space against Frölunda. Got to earn it and make the most of it. And a turnover at the blue line. 6.5 minutes to play here. And Eki is trying to wait it out, not go offside. And as much as we said in the last one that the clock was the friend of IQ, and we still have the entire third period to go, proven to be a bit of an enemy right now. Late goal here could do wonders for either side. And Flyer Kungen really had an opportunity for his 4th of the game.
And IQ's forecheck gonna have to really step up here. Being down by 2, you don't want to let Frölunda sit and be patient. They're fine with playing that slow game being up, especially with the way they execute it so well.
Pass off the mark. IQ in possession here. And off the long. Eki that interception. Václav tried to thread that one through. Ikavalko gains the line. Nika. One-timer. Good save by Kape. Loose puck and forced to make the cover. Good opportunity there.
Yeah, and I like that from IQ. Get that shot on that and get yourselves a chance here. You're down by 2. You need to get something going. What better way to maybe find the answer here in the next 90 seconds? So I like that play. It's going to be big for them, though, to win this face-off and get something going in the offensive zone.
Stretch pass. Playmaker has it as we hit the final minute. Tries to cut across. Loose puck in front. Nico takes it away. Weirdly can't hold on to it. Loimu's going to throw that on. Trouble, and Teme forced to cover with 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of scariness, we'll call it, in the defensive zone for both of these two teams. There's been a lot of close calls for these two goalies, and it's been from the relentless forechecks of both these two sides. Frölunda can stay back if they want to, but they'll get in your face a little bit and force that turnover every now and then, too.
A few seconds, pass across, picked off. And that will do it. A strong second period for Frölunda. They add to the lead. Flyer Kungen, the hat trick in this one already. And there's still at least 20 minutes to play.
And we get a look at that third goal for Flyer Kungen. And, you know, I got to say, there's plenty of other players you can put into this conversation, but I don't think there's a better right place, right time centric player in this league than Flyer Kungen, whether it be his days in Havu or taking it over to Frölunda this season. It just feels like he's a guy that has a radar for the puck. Wherever he is, the puck just seems to find its way to him, and it's been such a valuable piece to this Frölunda team this season that has had a lot of consistency within those 3 forwards. They put him in there. They get a much-needed dynamic to this team that has a lot of guile already. We've seen a lot of that here in this series, as it feels like he's been all over the ice, and a lot of those goals are because of his positioning and because of where he's been positioning himself to get that opportunity to score.
So you got to look there at the goals. Third period here. Just about ready to begin. And a huge 20 minutes for IQ. Looking to battle back here. And they already earned at least 1 point, as I said before, kind of playing with house money. 1 point out of a possible 4. Not a bad way to go. Good save there by Teme, denying Václav. Certainly a 3-goal lead would seem to be insurmountable, but you never say never in the elite division. Well, there might be separation between the elite division teams. Teams are in this highest tier for a reason. 16 of the best teams in the world. Frölunda certainly looking to reestablish themselves in that conversation as the best in the world. And with that addition of Flyer Kungen, that championship charge is certainly back on. The shot, kick, save, and Playmaker just unable to hold on to that one in front of goal. Flyer Kungen wrap around bid after forcing the turnover. A little bit off the mark. Or offside call here against IQ.
Yeah, and IQ going to have to try to find an answer here in quick time, starting to run thin, and you kind of said it there, Tugi. The last thing you want to do is go down by 3, but you're going to have to find a way to score here if you're IQ, because 1 goal definitely not going to do it, especially with Frölunda being plenty okay with letting that time dwindle down. So have to be aggressive and need to find that second goal here in quick.
Flyer Kungen looking to generate speed, trying to find Playmaker. Back to Flyer Kungen, and it's 4. 4-1 now the score for Frölunda as the wingers go to work.
Just the quick passing play there between Flyer Coogan and Playmaker, two guys that are plenty familiar with another in different sets of uniforms, but this time they're teammates and they've been connecting so well all season long, both in the top 5 in points. You can see why with the chemistry that they have had right off of the bat this season. Just amazing to see what these two have been able to do together.
Make it 5, or perhaps not. Playmaker contact with the goalie. We'll get another look at it, and yeah, tough to argue that one. The follow-up of the shot. That one will not count. Still a 4-1 lead for Frölunda here. 13 minutes to go in the third. And just a huge run now for Frölunda. 4 unanswered goals in this game. All 4 of them for Flyer Coogan. I do believe his 5th goal of the night. A goal in that first game. Shot there, saved by Kape. Dropped there by IQUE to win it back, but with 10.5 minutes to play, you are down by 3. This stage, maybe not so much hoping for the comeback, but we're going to stop the bleeding. Of course, we always talk about goal differential down the stretch. It's been a factor in playoff spots before. Don't quite know how much help you're going to need. Again, IQUE entered play today with a dead even goal differential. 30 goals for, 30 against. Tame is able to find that one in the traffic and cover with just over 8 minutes to play.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that because IQUE, they are a team with those games in hand. They might be a little bit lower in the standings, but as they continue to kind of move their way up, if they can accumulate points, their goal differential is a bit better compared to some of the teams ahead of them. So if they can keep on the right track, they'll be able to gain some spots even if they do have the same amount of points in the standings. So important that they maybe try to stall this lead down a little bit as a chance for Frölunda.
There's the turnover and a big save by Teme. A breakaway chance for Playmaker. Big stop. Here's Niepi now. Into the attacking zone for IQUE. Nowhere to go. It's Flyer Coogan and Loimu there. Here's Loimu now. Over for Flyer Coogan. And again, Teme able to find that one in the traffic.
Yeah, and Teme might be thanking his lucky stars that play did not connect. I think that was supposed to be a pass to Flyer Coogan in the middle, and man, if that pass gets on his stick, he had a nice little backhand play there to maybe get a 5th goal in this game. It's just amazing to watch how Frölunda has been flying so far these last couple of periods. Absolutely unstoppable so far.
Flyer Coogan for Potzloff. Think that went off the glove. Now that just high and wide. Loimu's shot blocked. Get the final 4.5 minutes. Nowhere to go for IQUE. Again, tough matchup. They are going to walk away with 1 point out of a possible 4, and a late power play chance here might help again that goal differential.
Yeah, helping that goal differential and even just to get some momentum going. Remember, this is an IQUE team that, like we said, does have some games in hand and do have a lot of tough competition with playoff teams coming up on their schedule. So if you can maybe get a few goals, get a few plays going for yourselves, carry that over against some stiff competition coming up on the schedule, definitely wouldn't complain about it.
IQUE entering play today with the 13th ranked power play. Frölunda, though, shockingly 12th. In terms of their penalty kill, it's been a bit of a weak spot for them. Good opportunity to eventually get that back a little bit closer to where they'd want it to be. With the work that Loimu and Potzloff are putting in. They're well on their way to doing that. Already 50 seconds to go in the man advantage. Bjergeli. See what he can do. Tries again to go down low. The defense for Frölunda have been cutting off that pass all game long, and the puck cleared one more time. So it will be a successful kill for Frölunda. We are down just about to the final minute of play here in what has been a very strong performance for Frölunda, and now they'll get a chance on a power play of their own.
Yeah, the number one power play in the league is going to get one more look here in the series, and I have to agree with you there, Tugi. Just an impressive performance from Frölunda, and I think what makes it even more impressive is that IQ did not lay down at any point in this series. In both games, they had moments where they had the momentum, they pushed back, and Frölunda had the coordinated response, but they were always able to find a way to. And in this game, too, just after that strong end of the first period, IQ just not able to find that one last little bit of magic to get that thing tied up.
Here's Eki dropping back for Potzloff. Eki again, playmaker, wanting Loimu in front. Potzloff looking around, Loimu now here, trouble. Flyer Kungan there to assist. Eki down low, Flyer Kungan on 4 goals in this one. Potzloff denied. 22 seconds remaining here in this one. Loimu for playmaker, tried to go back across. All the ozone time in the world here for Frölunda. Puck though back to the neutral zone, final 5 seconds. Ikavalko the spin, Jurgeli nobody home. 4 unanswered goals, 4 of them for Flyer Kungan. And a big win for Frölunda, 3 out of 4 points, or excuse me, all 4 points on the night. With the back-to-back victories, of course, that first one in overtime, taking care of business for Frölunda here in our first matchup of the day.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time obviously talking about the valuable points that IQ was looking to get, but remember, Frölunda, their team's still going for that number 1 spot, so they get 4 points. They came in with 2 games in hand on H-Reds and back by 8, so they cut that deficit in half and 4, and remember, next broadcast, H-Reds and Frölunda meet head-to-head, so that's a big 4 points for Frölunda to kind of get to maybe increase their chances of taking that regular season crown, and boy, Tugi, they do it ever so impressively. A nice performance from them. Dynamic offense, kept themselves at bay defensively enough to stave off some of the runs that IQ kind of got themselves. And I think for both teams, some positives to take home. Frölunda playing well, getting 4 points. IQ, despite only getting 1 out of the 4, knowing they can compete with these top teams. So a bit encouraging considering the schedule that they have coming up here in the next few weeks.
A set of wins for Frölunda. There you see it again, all 4 goals, and what was frankly a dominating performance. IQ again scoring just over a minute into the period, the first period that is, and from there it was all Frölunda. Again, it was this goal here from Nico that found its way through the traffic. Not sure if it deflected. I think that's what they're looking at. I'm going to guess that it didn't, just based off of where that one ended up being placed. Great work, but be major from there. It's all Flyer Kungan going to work and making the most of these opportunities.
Yeah, all Flyer Kungan and all Frölunda, and it's something we kind of talked about going in. When Frölunda goes down early, they typically don't take too kindly to that and find a way to respond, and that's exactly what they did. They put on their work hats and got straight to the job, and it's one of those things with Frölunda, you can only keep them slowed down for so long. Only H-Reds have really been able to find that magic formula, so to speak, to just kind of keep them calmed down offensively. And usually when you're playing a 60-minute game against a Frölunda team, it is usually a near guarantee that they are going to find a way to get their offense going, find a way to generate chances. And this time it was Flyer Kungan that benefited on all those chances. 4 goals, all of them off of his stick. So a great performance for Frölunda, but like we mentioned earlier, IQ snagged a good point, played well against this Frölunda team that's one of the top in the league, so still some positives for them to take despite the loss.
Yeah, big result there for both of those teams, you can argue. And again, coming up after a brief intermission, our second matchup of the day, Goons taking on Sawo Esports. Both teams entering play today in the top 4, and we'll see how that shakes out. A big-time matchup coming up here in just a few moments. Again, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss this one.